What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Mongols Podcast Live, sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. I'm Mike. With me is Kev, Josh, and Justin. Justin, haven't talked to you in a while, man. Welcome to the live party.
I'm glad to be here.
How's it going, man? What you been up to this winter?
Oh, just watching a lot of soccer, trying to maintain sanity in the midst of COVID and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel you. How's the young one?
The young one is great. She is just wonderful and has been a great addition to the household. She's getting her fix of soccer. We've been turning on EPL at like 6:30, 7 o'clock whenever she wakes up on Saturday and Sunday mornings, and then watch until 3, 4 in the afternoon. So I think she'll be a soccer fan.
I'm just picturing her in like one of those bouncy chairs, like eyes just glued open and just like soccer. Yeah,
pretty much.
That's awesome. Josh, I like the Hounds Cometh t-shirt. Well done.
Yeah. I literally just changed because I was not wearing a Hounds shirt.
Yeah.
I have to think about this stuff. We have to actually we're going to be on camera. So
I know. I didn't realize I had this many scarves when I dragged them out, but now I feel like I need to get like a shower curtain rod and do like a tifo or something. Like every time, just do something different. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm up for like painting a new tifo each week, but yeah.
If you are, we could use your help in the Steel Army. It's a lot of work.
Kev, how's it going down in Tennessee?
Good. Just got my first shot. So
look at you.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you, U.S. government employee status. The lab just got a bunch of shots, and so I was fortunate to be working at the lab.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot to talk about tonight. We were trying to figure out, what would be a good show. We're getting ready to head into the preseason here for the Hounds, and we said, what better way to do it than to sort of talk about just the optimistic side of things. I think we spent a lot of time the past few weeks talking about, what are we worried about? Some of these guys are coming in, are they the right guys? But I think there's a lot to be excited about for this season. So that's going to be what we're going to talk about here. For anybody that's joining us live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, feel free to share what you are most excited about heading into the season. If we like it, we might throw it up on the screen or talk about it. But we got 12 points that we're going to talk about. Real quick before we get into that, we still don't have a schedule. USL League One and League Two both announced their schedules today. Still nothing for the championship. And it's bad when the players are liking your tweet asking where the schedule is. So either they have it or they don't, or they empathize with us. Who knows? So that was the first bit of news. Second bit of news, it was just announced that Skylar Thomas signed for Memphis. So, obviously, best of luck, Skylar. We enjoyed watching him this past season. Glad we're not going to be facing them in our division. But that leads us into, although we don't have a schedule, we have some news about the playoff structure and how things are going to work. So obviously it's a bit early to be talking about playoffs, but the way it's going to work is that we have 8 teams in our division, which is the Atlantic Division. Top 4 teams make it. And so the way it'll work is that the playoffs, it sounds like the first round is going to be sort of regionalized. So we'll play against other teams within our division, single elimination. So guys, I want to get your thoughts. Top 4 make it. We have 8 in our division. Who do you think are going to be the top 4? I know it's early. I know we haven't, really seen anybody play anything, but who are your top 4? And for a refresher, for everybody out there listening, our division consists of Charleston Battery, Charlotte Independence, Hartford Athletic, Loudoun United, the Miami FC. That's going to get old so fast. New York Red Bulls 2, Riverhounds, and the Tampa Bay Rowdies. So, Justin, you tell me, who's your top 4?
First of all, I loved how you started this show of we're going to be super positive tonight, but we still don't have a schedule. I feel like that should have been an afterthought at the end of the show of like, hey, we still don't have a schedule, but started the show that way. Top 4. I think Tampa, Pittsburgh, the Miami FC, and Charleston.
Okay. I like the Charleston pick. Josh, do you have any teams that differ from that top 4?
Yeah, I'm thinking Red Bulls make it in, Miami do not.
Ooh, okay, going for the 2 team. Kev, who are your top 4?
I don't know anything about Miami, so like I can't make a call. I don't know anything about anyone. Let's be honest. But I mean, yeah, like Charlotte and Charleston are, they're historic clubs with a lot of weight behind them. Tampa's always good. So no, I mean, let's put it this way: I'd be surprised if Loudoun make it in. I mean, Hartford's hard to tell, especially because we took their top goal scorer presumably. And Red Bulls are always kind of a crapshoot. So, I would say those are the teams I would expect down kind of at the bottom of the division. But who ends up finishing at the top, I think, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, I think I'm with you guys. I really like the battery shout. I think they're always going to be there. I think Tampa, I was on Harry's podcast this past week, and we were talking a little bit about what we think the East is going to shake out and look like. And it feels like the Rowdies, based on what they did last year, you got to consider them one of the top teams, if not the top team in our division. And then, you can't count out Lily. So we're going to get into, what it is that we're excited about. I think Riverhounds are up there in the top 2, top 3. And then, I'll say Charleston and maybe Hartford. I think I'm going to say Hartford as well. It feels like Hartford has spent a little bit of cash, but Kev, you're right. We did take their top goal scorer, so we'll see. So that's what we think. Let us know what you think about your top 4, guys. Now let's get into the meat of, I know I teased it and then said, we're going to talk about all this other stuff. I tasked you guys each with coming up with 3 things that you're really optimistic about heading in the 2021 season. And we shared them with each other so that we each couldn't pick the same 3 things. So, Kev, I think you were the first one to get yours into the agenda. No, you're shaking your head. That's all right. I already called on you.
That's fine. I'll talk about it. Yeah.
No. You just pick one of yours. We'll go like around, and we'll end up with 12 things that we ultimately think we're optimistic about heading into the season. So, Kev, what's your top one?
I mean, the top one is, this is Lily's 4th season. And ever since he's been here, his record has been 3rd, 1st, 3rd. So I know, we talk a lot about on the podcast and in this community about, the high turnover rate for player contracts and a lot of, big players going out and, players coming in for every team. The one consistent for a lot of these clubs is managers and Lily going into his 4th year and with the track record he's had this far at the club, I think that's our biggest strength going into this season. He's a proven manager. He's more comfortable in the club. He's more comfortable in the city. And 3rd, 1st, 3rd. And I'll stop there. I was about to say my second point, but that's the biggest thing I'm hopeful for.
Okay. So Lily. And Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. Do we still have a bunch of those Welcome to Lily's League stickers that we meant to give out last year and we just, because of COVID, didn't?
Yeah. I still have a whole box full of those stickers, so I can't wait to give those out. I think we're gonna give them out for the live show, I believe, the post show. I think that was the original idea. I don't know. This was like a year ago that we came up with the ideas for this. I still have a bag full of Kerr buttons as well. So,
I forgot about the Kerr buttons. Yeah.
Kerr buttons. I think we have actually Hounds Cometh stickers from the Steel Army. We still have those. So we had bought a lot of cool stuff before for the last season. But yeah.
So the lesson is for the first game, find Josh and get free stuff, essentially, because he's going to be trying to offload it. He'll be basically wearing it all.
Apparently.
Yeah. Josh, give us one of your top 3.
It kind of goes into what you just said. I'm looking forward to just like a normal game, like a normal game time experience of the tailgate, be able to have people cooking burgers, hanging out. Now we already know that the beginning of the season is not going to be that. Hounds sent out a survey type thing today on Monday, talking about what they're going to do and that kind of stuff. And it sounds like it's going to be still masks, still going to be pods of people. Like I think the biggest you can have is 10 people. So it's not going to be a regular game day experience and probably not a tailgate. But I'm hopeful, optimistic that by the end of the season, we're going to have a regular tailgate. And that's going to be so much fun. Probably dangerous, but also so much fun.
I can't disagree with that. Justin, give me one of your top 3.
I'll stay along those lines too. I'm excited for stadium food. I just
kind of forgot what stadium food tastes like.
I saw this and I was like, absolutely. I wasn't even thinking it, but
I'll take it and grabbing. I think they announced today about the grab and go thing. I'll take my chicken fingers in a grab and go container. Like I don't care. Just give me some chicken fingers and fries and I'll be good. Or give me some tacos before the game or whatever. Like I'll take them however they're going to give them out. But I'm excited for stadium food.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good shout. One of my top 3 was just a air quotes normal season in that, last season, we started and most teams played 1 game. I don't even think the Hounds played 1 game. And then we were off for like 3 months and then we came back and we were taking bets on, how long before we get shut down again. And then we didn't have a final because of COVID. So like just the prospect of knowing, okay, we're mostly on the other side of this. There's a shot that a lot of everybody that wants to be vaccinated could be vaccinated by midsummer. So really we're sort of on the tail end and once we get started, there's very slim chances that we're going to stop. And so I think just getting back to that, which is a weird thing to say, because, 2 years ago, if we were like, oh yeah, normal season is a reason to be excited, like it's stupid. But no, I think just getting back to that sense of, okay, every week we're going to have a game. We're going to have something to talk about, something to cheer about, not like, what random movie are we going to be trying to pick this week and hope that it's not crap and tweet about it.
Oh, God. You guys want to watch Ladybugs? We got nothing else to do. I don't know. What do you guys want to do?
So many of the movies we thought were good, and then we got halfway through and you're like, what is wrong with this? Oh, man. Yeah. So I think just a normal season. Kev, I think that goes back to you. Give us your second thing that you're most optimistic about.
Yeah, this was the first thing I wrote down. I think it was. It's the division we're in. I think we could have gotten a more difficult division. I won't say the Central Division is like heavily more difficult, but I think it's one of those things where Central Division probably has. They're a bit more top heavy, and then the quality kind of drops off. Whereas I think we're a bit kind of broader, cast a wider net with a fairly even level. There are outliers, of course, but that's my reading of our division versus the Central Division. I mean, you look at the Central Division and Memphis and OKC and Atlanta all did not have good seasons last season. Even Tulsa, who finished second in their division last year, did so by drawing more games than they won. I don't remember any of this. I looked this up right before. This isn't like great memory. But so I think in that case, you have us and arguably Tampa, and then it kind of evens out, especially with Hartford. I mean, I this is my second kind of doing Hartford a disservice in this podcast, but I think I'm doing it rightfully so with the fact that, their transition over this offseason, us gaining one of their better players. And I don't know, I still, based on how the season played out last season, I think we were still a better team than Hartford. But yeah, so I think the division we're in, I think gives us not only a good chance at finishing top of it, but I think like every game is going to be really competitive and exciting. There's going to be few games where it's just throwaway games. I mean, maybe Loudon, but yeah, I'm excited about our division.
Yeah, Yost made the point, he's watching on YouTube, that there's a good chance that the team that could be in third best in the Central Division will finish fifth in the Atlantic. So, Kev, that's to your point of Central's a little bit top heavy. So, yeah, it could be interesting. I mean, there could be an argument made that if we were in the Central, then would you feel any more confident about the team making the playoffs if we were in the Central or Atlantic? Or do you think that based on the teams in the East, we would make the playoffs regardless? Josh, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
I mean, it's the top 4 teams in 8-team division. Like, is that what I'm looking at here?
Yeah.
So, like, it's not going to be hard to make the playoffs. Now that I just meant in general, no jinxing the Hounds here, but it I don't know. I get what they're doing, but I still think like top 2 teams feels more like this is a hard thing to do. This is a big achievement. But when it's half the teams in the division get into the playoffs, it's like, yeah, whatever. Okay. Like it seems like a soft, like, bar as far as to jump over.
Yeah.
I would agree with you on that one, Josh. Like, I think like when you think about our season last season, we had 4 teams in our division. You had to finish top 2, and like we had you playing Hartford 4 times, something like that. And so like every one of those games can and was like this 6-point swing, right? And like ultimately that last game against Hartford hurt us in that 6-game swing kind of dynamic that was there. And so I think like there is a reality of having more teams in our division. That's less games against each opponent. So there's less of a chance of these big like movement type games where, people are, teams are moving from third to first or doing those sorts of things because there's more common opponents and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That'll be very interesting to see, watch Louisville and Indy and see if they sort of run away with Central and how far ahead they push. Just another thing to watch out for. Josh, give us another thing you're optimistic about.
So a stronger start to the season. We talk about Lily teams having a slower start. I don't know if it's a myth or if it's real, but saying that Lily teams seem to take a little bit of time to get going. This preseason is going to be a longer preseason. Well, it has been. It's a longer time in between the seasons. We're going to be playing harder opponents in the preseason. I feel like this is a season built for us to kind of get it all tinkered out and figured out at the beginning stage before the season starts, and then we can hit it running. And with the way that the format is for this season, it's going to be interesting because we're going to be playing so many people so many times, where I feel like for a tactical coach like Lily, that this is going to be the season for him to actually know exactly what he's going up against, knowing how to strategize for this early on from the beginning and just hit it running. So that's why I'm excited to see this team come out of the gates full blast. Now, maybe it's too hopeful. Maybe I'm being a little too optimistic here, but I feel like this is a perfect setup for him.
Are you going to be at all, I don't want to say, I'm trying to think of what is the pessimistic, but I was going to say non-optimistic, just to stay optimistic. If, say we come out and we draw the first 3 games, or are you still on the, we'll be fine train?
Draw or lose? Lose, I'm probably it's not going to take much for me to completely be the ship's on fire, we're all going to die. You know what I mean? It doesn't I have a lot of highs and a lot of lows, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm hopeful. This is the hopeful podcast. Yes. I'm hopeful that the beginning of the season is going to be good.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, it will be very interesting to see once the schedule comes out. But again, we just sort of said that aside from Tampa, it feels like we feel pretty confident in our chances of finishing higher than where we did last year potentially. So we'll see. Justin, give me something else, man.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is 2 guys specifically in Danny Rivera and Anthony Velarde. I think this is their season to establish themselves as sort of bona fide starters in this league. I'm not even going to say on this team because I think we know how the roster works, and both those guys could be playing somewhere else next season. This is not a guarantee that they're going to be bona fide starters for the Riverhounds, but I think if they can establish themselves this season, given opportunities, and I think Velarde, year 1 kind of comes in and kind of plays early on and does pretty well, and then gets injured, and then Mertz comes in and kind of lights the world up, and then last year he got a little bit more of a chance again with Forbes kind of being out, and I think so this is kind of his chance to kind of establish himself in that midfield and establish himself as a starter. And then I think Rivera, sort of the same thing, but he's been behind others in the depth chart. And I think he has a chance to be a starting wing back for this team. And I think if he can kind of make that, if whether they're here or not in 2022, this is kind of their season to say, yeah, we're here to play in the USL and we can play in the USL. So I'm hopeful that both of them are going to be able to kind of step up to the plate and kind of play next man up in these roles. And I'm excited to see what they'll be able to do this season.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I'm really excited. I mean, I think not that we've seen what Velarde is, but I'm almost out of the two. I'm excited for both. I'm more excited, I think, for Rivera. And we talked about this a little bit in the offseason, I think, because of his utility. And we've seen a little bit how Lilly could shift him around. And, could he develop into a Ryan James-like player? I think that's something that'll definitely be interesting to watch and could be cool for this season. Before we get to my next one, just a reminder, if you guys out there have anything you're hopeful for, let us know. You can type it into the comments on either YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. This isn't so much a hopeful thing, but Burger Brand said, I like how our preseason we're playing MLS and USL teams instead of college teams. Getting university is a good for a start, but I'm excited about the Louisville City and MLS games. It'll definitely help us. Thank you there, Burger Brand. Yeah, can't disagree with that at all. We talked about that a little bit last week. The shift from playing, I won't even say not even good college teams. Like we had a few good college teams, but there were some that was like, who? Like, why are we playing them? So to shift to actually playing Louisville, Cincy, and really trying to sort of test our legs a little bit, I think is really encouraging. I think somebody last week mentioned that the Division I schedule being pushed back a little bit is sort of helping us in that favor. So it'll be interesting to see if that's something that continues moving forward, but definitely a good point. So thank you for that, Burger Brand. If anybody else has any other comments or things that they're hopeful for, let us know. Justin, sort of taking off of your point a little bit, my next point is I have the evolution of Danny Griffin. I think, last year Danny stepped onto the field. We really didn't know who he was. It's funny because every preseason it feels like we sit down and we're like, okay, these are your guaranteed 11. And then you always go to the first game and you're like, really? Like that guy? And I feel like Danny Griffin was one of those guys that nobody really took seriously. It was just like one of those signings, some college kid. And it's like, okay, he's going to be a depth player, maybe. And he sort of stepped up. He made some of the best attacking passes that we've seen in this team for a while. Lilly said so as much. And so I think this being his second season, him having a full season under his belt, I think we saw Mertz take sort of a really big leap from his first season to his second season. And especially with Mertz not here, I think the door is open for Danny to sort of grab those reins and run with it. And, we have signed a couple of other players that there was some talk about creativity and potentially being that number 10, but, just like we counted him out at the beginning of last season, I would not count Danny Griffin out from being sort of that attacking presence in the mid that can sort of push forward. So I'm hopeful and optimistic to sort of see him continue to grow as a player. And the hope is that, Justin, you mentioned that sort of the way the Hounds do things with Danny Rivera and Velarde, this being their third season, most players last like 3 seasons and then they're on to other things. With this being Griffin's only second season, then we've got a chance to potentially see what that third season could be and beyond. So I'm hopeful for another really good season and optimistic. I think the Hounds will do well if Danny continues to develop and grow. And it's not going to leave us saying like Mertz who, but like he has the potential to step into those. No, too far. No, I just see a lot of head shakes. Okay. All right.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Okay. I'm like I said, we're not going to forget.
I don't know. Griffin could pop. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Kev, give us your last reason to be optimistic.
It's fans in the stadium. I mean, every club and every fan and every equivalent podcast for every club can make this argument that now that with fans being back in the stadium, we'll be better. We'll be better at home. And I understand it's a bit naive to say like, no, we're different. Like, our fans are better and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I don't think it's a coincidence that in 2019, we go undefeated when we have the highest average attendance we've had, I think, in club history, if not in the past, 5 or 6 years. So I think the fact that fans are going to be back in the stadium, albeit not at full capacity, maybe at some point at full capacity, I think that'll be a really big boost for our club, for our players, and for our home record in particular.
Kev, I keep asking you, and I know you have no like inside knowledge, but what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously, I'm just saying the way we're going. You just got your first shot.
I did.
Josh, you got your first shot.
Yep.
are we thinking that by July, maybe we might be in a position to open up the full capacity, maybe?
I'll just tweet out CDC website. It's all. Just go to there, and then you will have an answer. No, I don't like. Yeah, that's my answer. Maybe, sure, yeah, sure.
Okay. Matt Needham just said, "Hopefully, I'll be able to attend?" ? Yeah, I think we're all in that same boat with you, Matt. So, yeah, no, I agree. I can't. Fans in the stands, of course. Who's going to disagree with that? So that will definitely be something to look forward to. Josh, I think you're up. What's your last reason to be optimistic or hopeful?
I think it's gonna be really cool to watch the team chemistry with a couple of veteran players. Because we talked about last year losing Kerr and kind of who's the veteran players there, and we really only had Forbes as far as a really someone who's been at this for a while. But this year we're gonna have Forbes. He's still the most veteran of the players, I would say. But we also have Dixon, and we also have Josh Gatt. Josh Gatt's a little bit younger than both of them, but not by much, really. I mean, I think Josh Gatt was born in 91, and I think Forbes is 88, born in 88. So, they've been around, and the experience as far as what Gatt's gone through with injuries and also playing for national team and that kind of stuff. So it's one of the situations where we do have players with pretty good experience at this point, and I feel like that's going to do a lot for the rest of the players, and it'll be interesting to see. And it's possibility of actually having people in the stands with them, so it's going to feel more like a regular season. I feel like they're going to be able to contribute a lot there. So I'm excited for that dynamic and seeing how that develops. I'm hoping for building on what we had last year as far as a cohesive locker room. It felt like the team was gelling really well. So I'm kind of wanting to see that roll into this year.
I think it'll be interesting to see, and hopefully we're going to try to get to talk to some of the players and coaches over the next few weeks as the preseason progresses. We're trying to line up some stuff with the Hounds now, but players like Kenny Forbes, Danny Rivera, Jordan Dover, who had been there when they were fans, and now knowing the fans are coming back, they all kept saying, they're missing the fans. That first game out, just to sort of see their reaction, how much they're pumping up the rest of the team. It's definitely gonna be fun to watch. So, yeah, I agree. Veteran leadership is great. I think what is going to be interesting, like you said, though, is that I think a lot of it is going to be new veteran leadership aside from Kenny. So seeing what that looks like, some of the guys coming from St. Louis, veteran players who have been around the league and who know what they're doing. But yeah, does that change the locker room at all? Or how does that change the locker room?
Dixon and Forbes played together at Rhinos, right? I know they both are former Rhinos. I just couldn't remember where they played as far as what years. But I'm pretty sure they played together.
I think so. Yeah. So
should be good.
Justin, give me your last one.
Yeah, this isn't as much about Pittsburgh as it is kind of just USL at large, and just something that I've been thinking about over the past and watching, kind of trying to keep an eye on and different things like that. I think it's interesting to see the teams coming in the league. So just kind of looking at who came in over the last couple of years. So 3 years ago, 2019, we had Austin, El Paso, Memphis, Birmingham, Hartford, and New Mexico all come in the same year. And I think it's interesting kind of looking at that list to see kind of where those teams are. I think when you start to look at Austin, El Paso is kind of putting some seasons together. They sort of put some seasons together. Memphis isn't putting seasons together yet. Birmingham kind of started, and it looks like they're trying this year to put a season together with the players they've acquired. Hartford, it was an interesting story last year. We'll see what kind of happens this year. I don't know that we've seen a huge jump in player acquisitions and stuff like that. And then obviously New Mexico has been good in the Western Conference for the last couple of years and probably continues to be good. And they've got a lot of fan support and all of that. But I do think it's interesting, last year, so we had two teams enter the league last year, San Diego and Miami. San Diego's an interesting one. They seem to again, starting to put a team together. Miami obviously didn't last year, but I want to talk about them in a second. And then I think there's one team coming in this year in Oakland. Oakland's coming into the Western Conference. And I think what's interesting to me kind of about this whole discussion is like Miami obviously didn't put a season together last year. They're coming over from a different league. They seem to just kind of stick with the roster they had. They kind of added a few players, and everybody said they were going to be good, and then they just weren't. But it seems like they're going for it this year. You know, they went out and got Paco Craig from Louisville. They went out and got Speedy Williams from Louisville. They went out and got Cristiano Francois. You know, they're bringing guys in who are experienced in this league, who know how to play, who have, you know, Bolo Akinyote, who was at Birmingham last year, is another name of players that just, they know how to play in this league. They know what the USL is. They know how to go about it. And so I think they're going to be a really interesting team to kind of see what they do this year. You know, I think it seemed like they just weren't prepared for USL competition last year. I think they know now. And I think so the interesting part about it is looking at Oakland and like what has Oakland learned when they look at that list of teams from 2019, they look at the two teams from last year. What have they learned as they've started to put together this roster for this year? And I think you've got to come in a very different place than what, you know, USL 1.0 in, you know, Charleston and Pittsburgh and some of these other teams. You've got to come in at a very different place than what Pittsburgh was able to come in. Pittsburgh was able to come in, you know, on the ground floor. You know, teams that came in 5-6 years ago, they were able to come in at a little lower of a competitive environment. And teams that are coming in now, they have to come in ready to play. And so I'm just interested to see, you know, excited to see what Oakland is going to bring to the league, but then how do some of these teams like San Diego, Miami, who now it's year 2, like what are they doing different this year than what they did last year, and all of that. So I think it's just going to be interesting to see how those teams kind of respond over the next couple of years, how Memphis continues to respond as they've struggled in the league, how Birmingham continues to respond as they've kind of added players this year and really tried to make a go for it. So those are the teams that I'm kind of just watching, kind of keeping a secondary eye on, and seeing what they're going to bring in these as they move forward in USL.
Yeah, I'm always interested in the teams out west, you know, in the hopes that we might play them. You know, there's a chance that at least a couple of our games this season could be played against teams out west. A couple of our games will be played outside of our division, whether or not that's in the East or out west. It's yet to be seen because we don't have a schedule yet. Justin, obviously, I feel like you do far more homework than any of us do. So I'm going to ask you this. You talked about how Miami signed a bunch of players. I think we were all sort of aware of that. But in your estimation, do you see them being like one of the things I'm going to miss about not having Indy in our division is not having a team to hate. Do you think that Miami has the right pieces to be legit, or are they on that like potentially dumpster fire territory that Indy always was when they just brought in a bunch of players and hope that it works?
No, I think Indy seemed to bring in pieces that like were all good kind of individually, but like when you try to put them together as a team, like didn't really succeed. I think Paco Craig is an unbelievable veteran in this league. Speedy Williams obviously did incredible things with Louisville and kind of anchored that midfield. And then Cristiano Francois is what he is, you know, and I think Bolo Akinyote is an incredible assist type of guy. You know, he and Leva Moloto were killing it, you know, over different times. And those are two guys that you kind of look at and go, those are assist kind of guys. And so I think when you look at those guys, I think, and the other thing about Akinyote was actually, he's a Philadelphia Union 2, Bethlehem Steel, you know, and they're incredible at developing players in Philly. So I just think he's another guy that could continue to develop. And so I think those are just guys that are exciting and fun to watch. And, you know, they seem to be team type guys. They don't seem to be like show off type guys, you know. So I do think that they might be able to put together a different team. So I don't know that I'm going to say like Miami's the best team in the league and are going to be able to compete with like Pittsburgh and Tampa as far as teams that have got it done over the past couple of years. But they could be a surprise like Hartford was last year, just kind of put together a team that definitely competes and definitely hangs around. And there could come down to those last couple games of the season, and what we do in those last couple of games could matter a lot for our playoff seeding and that sort of thing. So I don't think they're in dumpster fire territory yet. I think if they don't have the right pieces, it's going to be the guys they didn't add rather than the guys they did. So I think it's going to be interesting.
Nah, trash.
Not hot trash, just trash.
Just trash. It's fine. You can disagree with me. It's cool.
No, I mean, look, some of those, I completely forgot that they signed Francois for a second. And, just having the thoughts of Francois and Speedy, like, coming at you from two different sides, like, you got to prepare for that, man. So
I might get daggers here, but, like, let's not, like, Francois didn't have numbers. Like, Francois was good. Like, he was fast, but, like, he didn't score, and he didn't have a lot of assists either.
Francois scored some on a bad team last year. So I think put on a good team with some guys who know how to give assists, like he'll be okay.
That could be the tipping point. Yeah, when you surround him with better players, because I don't think he particularly had the structure around him here at Pittsburgh either for him to thrive. But yeah,
I mean, it's like Pasher a few years ago. We had him playing left back, and he goes into Indy and lights the world on fire as a striker, and now he's playing in MLS. So.
Let's not blame Lily for that one, though.
Well, that's not Lily's fault.
Is that pre-Lily?
Yes.
Yeah, that was pre-Lily.
It was Brant, I think.
I think it was Brant. Yeah. Yeah.
Talk is cheap.
All right. So my last point, and then I want to just do a quick breakdown on the full team and sort of get your guys' thoughts on sort of what areas of the field you're optimistic about, and then we'll sort of wrap this thing up. My thing is that we have a new look attack that we're going to have to figure out. It seemed like last season, so much of our attack was, okay, we're going to play balls up to Duba, and Duba's going to hold up play just enough for players to get into the attack, or Duba's going to get fouled, which happened more often than not. And then our attack started from set pieces further up the field, which great. Duba's not here anymore. Duba's at Tampa. So how does the team respond to that? And I think that we saw shades of that last year when Duba was out. We had a couple of games where we had sort of that revolving midfield where you had Mertz and Griffin and Velarde that were just pushing up into the attack and rotating around, and it felt very fluid. It was something that I think a lot of us were calling for sort of all season long. With the addition of some additional veteran midfielders, I think we have the potential to see something like that again. It doesn't feel like we have that big body hold up player at forward anymore, unless we sign somebody, over the next few weeks, which we'll talk about here in a second. But we could see a completely different attacking style than what we've seen the past 2 years. And I think that could be interesting. It's something to look forward to. So, yeah. So I think that's our top 12 amongst the four of us, things that we're excited about and hopeful for. I still like the shout about stadium food. Like out of all of them, that's the one that sticks. I'm thinking like nachos and like hot dogs, just like spot on, man. So guys, let's quickly look at the players. We have 18 players signed so far. I want to know, what area of the field are you most excited about? And then we'll talk about where do you think that we absolutely need some depth and we need to sign some players. So for right now, the Hounds still have listed as a forward Russell Cicerone, Albert Dequa, Alex Dixon, Josh Gatt. At midfield, at defender, midfield, we have Danny Griffin, Kenny Forbes, Louis Perez, which for those who missed it, Perez's former team tweeted out a nice little video of him saying goodbye to the team and then getting Gatorade dunked, which was awesome. Anthony Velarde and Todd Wharton. So again, we added some experience there, a little bit more depth. At defense, we have Ezra Armstrong, Casey Bartlett-Scott, which was officially announced this week. We sort of called it last week. The Steel Army sort of dug that tweet out, but the team sort of acknowledged, like, you already knew, but now you know. So Ezra, Casey, Jordan Dover, Preston Kilwine, Danny Rivera, and Mikkel Williams. And then at keeper, we got Jake Leaker, Chris Morse, and Danny Vitiello. So out of those four groupings, forwards, midfielders, defenders, keepers, Justin, which one are you feeling most confident about at this point?
I mean, I really like our striker. I really like our strikers. I know we had some arguments at the end of last season of Dikwa or like whatever, but
I forgot who I'm talking to here.
I'm glad we kept Dikwa. So I mean, I really like this. I mean, I think Dixon was, I mean, Hartford was able to put together a season, but I think Dixon was part of it was just the team he was on rather than kind of his talent, that sort of thing. I think Cicerone was, good in the St. Louis attack. And Gat is just a really interesting name. It's, can he put together a season? Can he stay healthy? Can he, it seems like he hasn't been able to return to what he used to be, but I don't think he has to be successful in USL. And then Dikwa, I love Dikwa, so I think I'm excited about that. I think we're going to be able to put some goals in the back of the net for sure this year.
Based on that offense, do you think that we go with a 2-striker front, or do you think Lily sticks with sort of a 1?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting because I think Gat, Cicerone can both play wide. So, I mean, I think we could play a little bit more of a
like a 4-3-3,
4-3-3 or 4-2, like a 4-2-3-1, something like that. So I don't know, but I think we could very easily see a 4-4-2. So I don't know. We'll see.
Kev, what do you like in this roster? You like forwards, midfield, defense, keepers?
I mean, I think this isn't my answer, but I need to, like, the obvious one I think is keepers, like, because we have the Golden Glove and two backup keepers. I mean, historically we've needed to use all 3 keepers in the past, so I mean it's important that all 3 of them can play. But I mean, outside of Danny Vitiello, I don't know much about any of them. I mean, Jake Leaker looks massive, so that's always good for a keeper. But for me, like, I'm most excited weirdly about the midfielders, because I think also, I mean, you said like most excited in the one that you think like needs more depth. I think the midfielders still need more depth. I think we need to sign more players in the midfield, but weirdly, I'm most excited about them because I think I'm so confident around Danny Griffin and Kennard Forbes. And in my head, I don't know, I have 3 midfielders kind of starting for us. Because then you can get into weird things. Well, okay, if we play 4 midfielders, then maybe Rivera is kind of like a wing back and he counts as one or whatever. But I think if you have 3 solid midfielders, that's the most important thing. I know I can count on Danny Griffin. I know I can count on Kenny. Velarde has always been kind of a wild card for me. I think there are some games he shows up and changes matches off the bench and scores, and then there are other games where I think he can go missing, and he always seems to be subbed off at like 65 or 70 minutes. But I mean, Todd Wharton looks, on paper, he looks like he could be a very solid, great starting midfielder for us. So I think the possibility of Velarde hitting a new ceiling and Wharton, I can't like put any expectations on Perez coming out of college. He could be a Griffin or a Mertz, but who knows? So he can be kind of a wild card situation there. But yeah, I think Griffin, Forbes +1, and that +1 either being Wharton or Velarde, I think is pretty exciting.
Yeah, some depth there. That I mean, I don't think it's that much depth. I mean, like, one player goes down, it's a long season. Midfield in general, you have to have the most legs for. But I think when you look at sort of last season and you look at our midfield, I don't feel like we may have had one guy off the bench that we felt okay about. And I think this would be a scenario where maybe we have 1 or 2 that at least have some experience, that we sort of know kind of what they are. I'm not saying we don't need more. I'm just saying.
You playing 2 midfielders? What are you doing?
No, I'm playing
1 or 2 off the bench that are great. I mean,
we'll see. I just realized we're matching today too, Kev. Thanks. So we
brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Josh, what are you thinking? What do you like about this team so far?
I'm excited for the forwards just because the fact that it has to be different, and it's going to be different than what we've had in the past. We only have 1 returning with Dikwa, so it's like, what is this going to look like? What are we going to be? Are we going to be scoring a lot of goals? Is going to be more of a defensive-minded team that Lily always gets pinned as being, but I don't think it's necessarily true that we've seen in the past. But yeah, so I don't know what our attack looks like really with these new players in, because there's not that much known quantity in this team. Like we have, Dikwa, we have Forbes, Velarde if he starts, like that's it. We don't know what it's going to look like. So as far as the attack goes, I'm kind of excited just to see what it is. I'm also scared. I don't know, but I'm excited because it's going to be something different. As far as where I'm feeling most comfortable, other than goalkeeper, just because Vidiello, but defense. But that has nothing to do with who's on the team. It has to do with, I feel like Lily knows how to get those guys into shape, and like he knows how to build a good defense. So I'm not really worried about defense. I'm more like, yeah, it's going to be what it is, and he's going to take care of it. But yeah, so definitely the forwards.
Yeah, and that sort of segues into, I was going to actually say that what I'm most, I don't want to say optimistic or hopeful, but what I'm most excited to see is the defense, because we talked about, the loss of Tommy V, the loss of our other starting center backs means that this team is going to look completely different. But Josh, you're right. No matter what, Lily gets those guys into shape. So, we know that Preston Kilwine did well in New York. We know that Mikael Williams has a history and has played well in the back. We know that Dover's coming back. So I think that we're gonna see a good defensive unit. But I think so far a lot of the experience and a lot of the like flash, if you want to call it flash, that we've brought in has been in the midfield and forward. So and some of that could just be because we know what we have sort of in Rivera and Dover, and there's your flash. You don't get much flash out of your center backs unless they're giants that are going to score for you on set pieces. But yeah,
I was just going to say that I give Lily 2 6'5" college kids, and I'd be like, yeah, fine, like whatever, like we'll sign Todd Pratzner in the middle of the season, and everything will be fine. And we'll be good. Oh yeah, I'm with Josh. I'm completely confident in whoever we put on defense.
I mean, you remember how much breath we wasted on like being worried about the defense last year? Like we're like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Greenspan's gone. Oh, like this is going to be scary. Are we going to like just goals are just going to be leaking in constantly? It's like, no, we are fine.
I think the big thing is like for me, the narratives around our defenders have been so catchy over the past few seasons. With all the great characters that we've had and kind of grown close to, in particularly at the center back position, to have those characters go and to now not really have anyone to have like a connection with immediately, and the center back position in particular. I mean, I loved Dover, but he's different than like a Toby or a Greenspan or something.
You look at the history of players that, this show has had a relationship between Toby and Hugh and Joe and Tommy V. Like there were some personalities back there that had been around and sort of made a mark in the league. And so to almost have a revolving door other than Tommy V, having a revolving door with the other center backs last season is going to be interesting. So definitely one to watch. All right, real quick. We're at 18 players. Lily tends to like 22, 23. What's the next position that we sign? Is it going to be forward, midfield, defense? Probably not keeper because we only got 3 keepers. Justin, what do you think?
I think the next position is probably going to be midfielder. But I don't know. I think part of it is we're waiting for MLS camps a little bit, knowing that MLS season is going to start a month before. Or at least a couple weeks before we do. I think there's a chance that they add a couple positions right at the same time. Like I think we add one of those guys. Not one of those specific guys, but one of those guys like a Toby or a Hugh or a Joe Greenspan. One of those guys who has potentially been around MLS or been hanging on an MLS roster for several years. And gets cut late. I think we potentially add one of those guys still to this team, but I think we probably add a midfielder before then, and then we'll probably add a center back at some point.
Yeah, Josh, when the Hounds go out on Twitter and tease that another player's coming, what are you betting? What position?
I was going to say midfield, but I actually think center back is probably just as likely because of Alex DeJohn leaving. That whole situation here, we had a center back, but now we don't have a center back that we just signed. So we know we're in a market for it because we were before. So probably a center back.
Yeah. Kev, do you disagree?
No, yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the day, I think we're going to probably sign at least one more player in every one of these tiers.
I was going to ask, do we think we're done at forward?
No,
so.
no. I mean, I think we have the least amount of work to do in the forward position. But I think we have more work to do in the midfield and defender. Please don't sign a fourth goalkeeper.
Go completely opposite than every other year, where it's like we only have 2 goalkeepers. This is scary. I signed 4. You guys shut up now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. Well, guys, I think, overall, I think just looking at this list before the show and talking through it, I'm feeling pretty good about the season. I know, there are still some lingering questions. We sort of touched on those a little bit with the team and sort of how things get structured, but I think we've given everybody a lot of good reasons to be optimistic. Anything else that you guys want to discuss before we get out of here?
We kind of glossed over it somewhat, but like just being back in the stadium in general, I feel like forget, like the little things about it, just in general, being able to watch a game with a group of people, being in a crowd, that sounds weird still. Like right now, like I hear the word crowd, I'm kind of like knee-jerk reaction, just being like, oh, I don't know about this. But like when that stops being that reaction, that's going to be fantastic. So
yeah. And not just you being in that crowd, but being in a crowd of people that are all having that same reaction. Like
exactly.
The party is going to be a party for sure.
I mean, when we score a goal and I get adult beverage splashed on me, I'm not going to be upset this time. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, you mean like when the Hounds scored last year, you didn't have like Liz just like dumping adult beverage on you?
It's going to be fine. I'm going to be happy about it. Not annoyed at all.
Yeah,
I might be annoyed. I'm probably still going to be annoyed if I'm not going to lie. But
awesome, Kev. Can we? I'm going to put you on the spot again. Is there any chance that you make it up here for a game this year?
Maybe. I don't know. I have a lot of traveling to do to catch up on from 2020, so I'd like to.
Okay.
I'll take you hiking if you come to Pittsburgh.
That's all you're gonna get out of me. That's the best you're gonna get out of me. Putting me on the spot live.
All right, fine. Well, thank you guys for.
I haven't been on my honeymoon with my wife.
So honeymoon at the Highmark Stadium. That sounds great. She'll love it. Yeah, take her to a game, have some nachos.
That's right. Adult beverage spilled all over you.
What more could a newlywed ask for?
Oh man. Well, thank you everybody who joined us live and shared comments. And thank you to everybody who listened after the fact on the podcast. As we said, we're going to try to make this a live thing moving forward. And we're working with the team to try to get some coaches and players on here live so that you guys can listen in and share your reactions to their comments and questions. So if there's anybody in particular that you absolutely want us to talk about, let us know. You can hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, in the YouTube comments here from the live show. We really appreciate it. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's it for this one. Make sure you head to mongols.com, click on support the show to become a Patreon follower. Immediately after this show, we're going to go do an after show that's only available to Patreon followers. And we tend to get completely off topic and talk about completely random stuff. Sometimes it's related to soccer, sometimes not, but it's almost always a lot of fun. So make sure you go check that out. mongols.com, click on support the show. We really appreciate it. Otherwise, weekly reminder, Black Lives Matter. Thanks to Roughneck Scarves, official scarf supplier to USL, MLS, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. Tired of the same old uniforms and cookie cutter templates from Nike and Adidas? Looking for a unique, completely custom kit for your youth club, Sunday league squad, adult, or even pro team? Icarus FC can help you create the kit of your dreams at an affordable price. Let them help you design your new custom kit today at IcarusFC.com. Looking for more great USL news? Head over to bgn.fm, where we've got over 100 fans that are writing and podcasting about the beautiful game. Lots of great features that went up on the site this week. Hugh Roberts just released another amazing backyard footy. You got to go check that out and support our guy. Otherwise, thanks, everybody. We will talk to you very, very soon.
Cheers.
Later.